So I've changed one setting and I set it for autofocus on face. So now it's going to follow me and should maintain focus the whole time. Now, of course, with the strange angle, it may or may not pick it up. What can we talk about on the drive over? We could talk about digital marketing basics that it was going to take for someone to be able to reach out to their customers and clients and patients online and communicate with them and give them opportunities to buy things. Talk about the fundamentals of personal finance. A lot of people talk about being broke or wanting to have money, wanting to be financially free, but then they never seem to set themselves up to do it. Because they don't take on the first basic aspects of personal responsibility and laying out what does it mean to be financially free or to have your own money, right? So it is an interesting piece. You see, I truly believe that none of this is difficult. It just takes some basic understanding and knowledge, and then you got to actually apply it. Just like this morning, I did a video on relaxed walking. It was about just under 3.5 minutes. Very simple information. Many people don't even think about the way they walk. They just trudge along. Trudge along and not think about it. They're just walking. Everybody's like, well, I walk all the time. What do you mean? Relaxed walking or different ways to walk. It doesn't even make sense because, in a sense, many of us have become so robotic, or maybe automaton, maybe that's the right word, automatic in what we do, we forget to pay attention to it. And when we are not paying attention, there's two different versions. You may be doing something instinctually, which could be argued is a good thing, or habitually, which could be argued to be a good or bad thing. Instinctually is most likely more good than anything else. Habitually depends on what the habit is, depends on the action that you're going through. I mentioned finances a moment ago and the way people handle that. So if you habitually are overdrafting or finding yourself broke and living above your means, that's a bad habit. But it's actually one that's simply changed. Now, simply, of course, does not infer easy. You could think of simple as being the basic layout, the outline, the bullet points. What makes something easy or hard is how you and I believe the thing to be. And can we execute follow-up? And that becomes behavior. What is the behavior that's causing such a thing? Are we willing to change the behavior? What would it take to change the behavior? How can you get somebody to change a behavior without making them feel as though they're bad or wrong, because nobody wants that. And I believe, one, that I'm not the only one that believes this next statement. I believe that many problems that people face are because they don't want to admit that something they've been doing is wrong. And I talk about this with friends and clients alike. All of us seem to believe, right or wrong, that we've got to have a certain level of status in our environment or our communities in the world. Well, there's probably some truth to that. So if you have to have a certain elevated status in your group or to the outside world, admitting that you have been wrong can be scary to some people. I think, well, if I admit that I was wrong, I might lose all my status, might lose all my stuff, all my influence. This is true. You might. Now, what if by admitting you're wrong, maybe you lose some status with certain people, but what if you gain all new status with an even better group of people? We've got to be free to change our minds as we grow. The things we knew as children in elementary school are not the things we knew in middle school or junior high school. They're not the same things we knew in high school, senior high school, college, work life, relationships with, a girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife. Imagine how crazy it would be if we just didn't evolve our thoughts. The world being run by a bunch of 5-year-olds. Although sometimes, I guess the world seems as though it's run by a bunch of 2-year-olds. But part of that statement is the problem. The lack of evolution of thought, the lack of being able to admit that you were doing something that wasn't as effective or as efficient or even as correct for the society or for yourself. So with that thought, many people would choose to continue being wrong or acting in incorrect or less effective ways than to admit that they were not doing it the best way, that their way is not the best. To me, that seems odd. I want to find ways that do help me do things even better than what I'm doing now. That way, my life gets simpler and easier. Means I can acquire more things, and by acquiring those more things, I'm able to manage them well and then help other people around. Which this could very well be a good opportunity as we sit here and chat to introduce my 2-step life plan. I hesitate to call them my 2 commandments because that seems a little cliche, maybe. The 2 rules for life. Take personal responsibility for as much as you possibly can. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is acquire and properly manage as many assets or resources as possible. That's it. Take as much personal responsibility as you possibly can. And the second one is acquire and properly manage as many resources as you possibly can. That does not mean to hoard the resources. And what is a resource? A resource is essentially, in this manner, everything outside of yourself. All the physical, for sure, all the physical stuff around you. It also includes relationships with people. And the proper management of it, I know that's the part that will be most debated, I imagine. Because who gets to decide what's proper? Well, that's a fair question. And that's probably the most debated question throughout human history, I imagine. What's actually proper? What's moral? What's ethical? What is that? What do those words mean? In the Old Testament, they had the 10 Commandments. And those 10 Commandments apparently weren't comprehensive enough somehow for the leaders of that time period as they went forward. They had to develop hundreds and hundreds of different laws on top of the 10 Commandments. Then in the New Testament, there's a line where someone's questioning or, has an audience with Christ, and they ask them, teacher, what are the what commandments are the most important ones? Which ones should we follow for sure? See, so with all their hundreds and hundreds of rules, they were, like many of us today are with laws, confused. Because the leaders of the time, the leaders of this time, keep applying more and more rules or laws that, frankly, most of us don't even know exist. So there's a good chance almost all of us are breaking some kind of law every day, and we don't even know it because we've never heard about it, we've never seen it, it's never been explained to us. And I believe most of the people who enforce those laws, whether that's like police or other groups, federal law enforcement, local law enforcement, most of them probably don't even know what half of these laws are. There's always going to be more things to know than there are things that you need to know. I'm just saying. Well, the time when Jesus was asked, which commandments are the most important to listen to? How do we do this? How do we live? And he told the people, love the Lord your God with all your heart and treat other people the way you want to be treated. That's pretty simple, I think. And I don't feel it's all that difficult to do. Even people who spend every Sunday in Christian churches and several nights a week or days a week doing Bible studies and group things and this and that, and I've met some of them over the years. They're nice people. Although some of them still haven't figured out that those 2 commandments that Jesus told the people there in the Testament, which is in the Bible, which they say they read all the time and they research and they study all the time, but yet they have not figured out yet how to apply those 2 statements in their life. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it according to some other folks. I don't know. The great thing is, it doesn't really matter what other people think. And this has got some overlapping concept with the status gaining and losing. You want to be able to present yourself and your ideas to the world. I would imagine we're all different in a way that's helpful. And in doing so, we earn a certain type of status. That doesn't mean that you've got the biggest house and the most money, but it might mean that you are thought most highly by other people. Both things are not bad. But if you, as a person, if you rely on the feelings or the beliefs of other people to define you, and you're more concerned with how the exterior world, the other humans around you, view you, rather than how you yourself see you, and if you are a spiritual person, how your Creator sees you. Worrying about everybody else and their opinion is much more detrimental, I believe, than anything else. That's part of how peer pressure works to hurt society. And peer pressure is not just something that teenagers go through. Not sure why it's usually only thought in that manner. But even the term or the phrase peer pressure says nothing about age. It's just peers. Those in our circles, our cohorts, our community, our tribe, our herd, our group. Our peers applying pressure to us to make certain choices because they think it's the way to do it. Even if you completely disagree and you know that it's not the right choice for you, you at the moment, wanting to be part of the group, are willing to make what you know is a bad choice because you feel pressure that your group will lose respect, lose their caring about you. You will lose the status or not gain any more status in the group that you desire to be part of if you don't make that choice that you personally know is not the right choice for you, but you would prefer to be included
then do what's right. That concept knows no age limit. And so we do goofy things sometimes. There are people that want to be known by the whole world. I want everybody in the world to know my name and what I do. Why? Let me say it this way. I get it. If you have some kind of knowledge and skills, knowledge or skills or both, that you're trying to share because it's been so helpful in your life and so beneficial that you want to be able to share that with everybody else that you see on the planet breathing that has not yet attained the type of benefits that you have, but see, now here's the thing. You believe those benefits that you have, or those skills and knowledge or resources, you believe that those are the right ones. Well, maybe they are the right ones for you. Why do you think they're the right ones for somebody else? Maybe somebody else has absolutely no desire to have those things that you're talking about. But there are for sure people that do want to have the things that you're discussing. The benefits, the resources, the knowledge, the skills. So why not just talk to them? And then let them spread that message to somebody else also. I don't so much want to be known worldwide as much as I would rather be the catalyst that created a worldwide benefit. The proverbial pebble dropped in the pond that created the ripples that went all the way across the pond, spread out to all the edges. That sounds much better to me. I like the idea of being able to go out, leave the house, travel, whether it's locally, whether it's across the state, across the country, across the world. I would like to be able to do that and just go out and enjoy. I don't need to be world famous and people wanting or stumbling over themselves to see me because they saw me, stumbling over themselves to rush to get a glimpse of me because they knew me from something else. I'm not interested in that. I want to be able to help people create things, bring benefit to the world, in order to gain and manage the resources and what was the word I used earlier? Acquire resources and assets. The resources and assets, that's what I'm talking about. I want to have enough of that so that my whole family is taken care of, while at the same time, I don't want to just give them everything. I want to instill the same thought process in them to my greatest ability so that they also want to take as much personal responsibility as possible and acquire and manage assets and resources. Because as much as many people don't want to admit it, Not everybody should be trusted with assets and resources, but I believe that's a very small percentage of people. And most of them can be taught or can learn how to acquire and manage their own stuff. I don't think anybody should be babied or taken care of or just given things because they're there. But if somebody legitimately has something holding them back from acquiring and taking care of themselves, then they need some help. And there is the entire point of charity. But you can't give to charity, whether it's money or resources or other assets, whatever you prefer to give. You can't give what you don't have control over. And taking assets and resources from those that have them by rule of law, by rule of mob, basically by force, is akin to robbery, in my opinion. If you're an otherwise fully capable person and you choose to not acquire things and not take care of yourself, that's your fault. Will you run into roadblocks and problems along the way where people didn't treat you fairly or you didn't get an opportunity that you thought you should have? 100% you're going to run into that stuff. All of us will. So what? Then you move on to the next thing. You know, the next opportunity. Maybe you didn't get something because you didn't have the required skills. You know, we didn't have the knowledge. We didn't have the resources. Again, knowledge, skills, these are resources, these are assets to acquire and manage. It's kind of fun, just the rambling Sunday morning drive philosophy channel. Although this covers a great majority of my basic life philosophy all in one. So if this was to be turned into an episodic thing, it would sound very similar all the time. But what doesn't? Many things that we like sound very similar or are repeating patterns of something. Most of us enjoy repeating patterns because it's more predictable, which allows us to be more comfortable. It's the unpredictability, the unknowing, the hidden. These are the things that make us feel uncomfortable mostly. It's clearly not an exhaustive list. I believe that's where the whole idea of being afraid of the dark originates. You're not afraid of the dark. You're not afraid